Learn to Subdue Your Passions, A Guide for Modern Living by Marcus Hammonds, Hammonds, published by Gemeinschaft Publishers. Read by Marcus Hammonds in January 2017. Preface. Many have heard the question, "What have you came here to do?" and answered, "To learn to subdue my passions and improve myself in masonry." However, very few ever ask themselves what exactly the passions are. To be honest, I once thought that the question was referring only to sexual desire. Therefore, my immediate assumption was that I needed to control my sexual appetite or learn how to harness my sexual energy if I indeed was to improve in masonry. To my surprise, I later came to understand that there were actually several passions, and our goal is not so much to eliminate them from our lives, but to manage them and give them boundaries. In this lifetime, we are human. We have 5 senses. Those senses have receptors that filter through certain wavelengths of energy from our environment. Our brains then process those wavelengths and build a holographic representation of reality for us to interact with. In addition to those senses, we have desires that motivate us to go out and get the things we need to survive. Our desires are intimately tied to what we think we need, and what we think we need may be accurate or inaccurate. This is where consciousness of the passions and how they are functioning in your life become important. How are your relationships with your friends, relatives, children, or your spouse? How is your relationship with food? What is your relationship with money? What is the current trajectory of your career? These answers are all related to how well you are subduing the passions in your life. How can you manage something that you don't know about? They say you don't know what you don't know. This book will help you know what you haven't known and put you on course to begin using your precious inner resources more wisely. Forward. Written by Past Master Thomas Kwesi Danda Smith. Passion is described as an intense, compelling emotion, enthusiasm or desire for anything, a feeling of love or unusual excitement. Passions consume us. The various types of passions vary as much as the individuals enthralled by the subject of their affections. Our passions can give us strength, power, and even courage. Adversely, we can become consumed by our passions. Our passions can distract us from the tasks at hand. They can lead us to indiscipline, and in some cases even lead to some form of addiction. Take, for example, a sex addiction. The individual becomes so consumed with sex and sexual activities to the point of sacrificing time with friends and family, and then ultimately becoming completely untrustworthy in those relationships. Even positive endeavors can lead to negative results, helping the less fortunate, for example. The person assisting an individual or group can become narrow-minded in providing for a specific need. But the question is, did they explore all of the causes causing the infliction in the first place? Are there cultural, gender, and social differences that need to be considered? All of these things must be taken into careful consideration as we attempt to control or subdue our passions. From love to anger, Lust and More, author Marcus C. Hammonds, immerses the reader in a world of relevant experiences with which we are all familiar. He artistically leads us down a path of real-life scenarios which lead to self-reflection and arm us with the tools required to control our desires, be they positive or destructive. Yes, too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. When I first met Marcus, I was immediately impressed. His emotions never got the best of him, a trait I have long admired. His level of self-control is amazing. We have spent thousands of hours dialoguing over a variety of topics. Even while debating topics dear to him, his style of communication has been elegant, yet persuasive and commanding. I hope you will enjoy this inaugural work by Marcus C. Hammonds. Use it as a tool as you work towards a more perfect you. When one learns to properly control, manipulate, and subdue their passions, a world of awareness and opportunity will manifest itself right before your very eyes. This work will certainly expedite your progress along these lines. Past Master, Thomas Kwesi Danda Smith, Prince Hall affiliated. Chapter 1, Lust. Much has been written about and inspired by lust. These 4 letters sounded together are a descriptor for one of our most arousing and titillating feelings. It is said to be characterized by an intense desire, craving, or uncontrollable obsession. From this description, we can apprehend a feeling of being swept away with emotion, a quickening of respiration, the appearance of beads of sweat upon the nape of the neck, and a rapid pounding felt in the chest. This is lust in all of its glory. Lust compels us to indulge ourselves with that which we desire most without thought of consequence or repercussion, and includes any appetite we seek solely to enjoy a pleasant sensation. We become enthralled by the temporary tidal wave of excitement released by ingesting some quality, some activity, or something. But once you have utilized all of your energy and vitality on its indulgence, it will cast your used carcass aside with no regret. Lust's primary function is to lower and degrade your mental faculties to that of the simplest animal. Lust makes a man forget his moral status and obligations and focus solely on his own personal desires and needs above all others. Lust's destructiveness is characterized by the surrender of our ability to control our desires and by our single-minded focus on the objects of our desire. Once our ability to control and focus has been lost, we will serve whichever master provides us with enjoyable experiences. Lust encompasses more than just sex, but as we endeavor to subdue our passions, sex is as perfect a place as any to begin our journey. Lust for sex. When you lust after someone, you may imagine yourself engaged in a variety of sexual activities with them and to them. Something about them fills you with an overwhelming amount of excitement that can only be resolved by the slapping of your sweaty bodies together. You may not even know their name or anything about them. It could be something about the way they look or the way they smell. It could have been the way they uttered a few choice words. Whatever it was, you have found yourself aroused and randy. Unfortunately, when your desire for sex has become excessive and immoderate, what once was pleasurable may in fact become degrading and destructive to oneself and those around you. Some say lust feels dirty, filthy, sexy, flirty, wrong and right at the same time, warm and fuzzy. They say lust feels like being that stalker that sits behind a tree in your backyard. Lust says, I want you and I have to have you now. Sex addiction. An increasing number of high profile individuals have sought treatment for their alleged addiction to sex over the past several years. The list has included politicians, actors, as well as gospel choir directors. This affliction has also been known as hypersexuality or nymphomania and has been used by those who engage in serial infidelity to describe their seemingly unmanageable thirst for sexual activity with people other than their spouse. Solicitation of prostitutes. A woman once discovered her husband had been soliciting the services of prostitutes, and these secret rendezvous had been going on for quite some time without her knowledge. While her first response may have been to get as far away from her husband as possible, because children were involved, the couple chose to pursue therapy. However, when a marital partner chooses to procure the sexual services of a person who in turn is intimate with many partners, what is the total impact on the unwary spouse and the relationship as a whole? Well, there may be nothing intrinsically wrong with sex work or sexual entertainment. Procuring these services while in a marital relationship and without the spouse's knowledge can be construed as a bit selfish and self serving, especially if there is no regard for the prevention of sexually transmitted disease. Therefore, a discussion about the utilization of prostitutes transforms into a discussion about one's personal commitment to keep promises and to be truthful without having to use your temporary loss of self-control as an excuse. Your pornography collection. While publications dedicated to sexual entertainment and education are by no stretch of the imagination new, technological advancements during the 20th and 21st centuries have definitely aided in their proliferation. In the past, magazines, reel-to-reels, and VHS tapes were carefully stashed away from the prying eyes of spouses, parents, siblings, or children. With the advent of digital media, terabytes of porn can either be stored in encrypted folders on hard drives, on USB drives, on DVD, or streamed conveniently over the internet. However, while hidden storage compartments may provide the illusion of privacy, viewing and collecting porn can easily lead to an unintended discovery. While there is little chance of contracting a sexually transmitted disease from viewing sexual entertainment, there is a good chance of getting some sort of virus or malware on your computer. According to a recent survey done by Threat Track Security, a number of executive workstations have had to be sanitized because of visits to porn sites while at work. It has also been alleged that the most popular of porn sites often unknowingly have embedded advertisements that contain malware. As an aside, religious websites have surpassed porn sites in the number of malicious infections because porn site entrepreneurs have more experience with the use of internet prophylactics. If you share a computer or smartphone, there is a chance that your spouse or children may stumble upon your treasure trove of porn by going through your browser's history or unintentionally opening a folder on your hard drive. Either way, once discovered, you may suddenly be thrust into a heated conversation about your peculiar proclivities. Lust for food. Most people enjoy eating, but some find food to be a form of ecstasy. Although rare, certain people are filled with intense pleasure from consuming dishes such as salmon, sushi, or desserts like tiramisu. Unfortunately, too much of the wrong kinds of food can lead to malnutrition and other severe consequences. Our first sensory response to food is with our eyes. Just the sight of food fires neurons in the hypothalamus. For instance, the color blue is rarely found in nature, and therefore we have no automatic appetite response to blue foods. In fact, foods that are blue, black, or purple were often avoided as they were potentially poisonous. The makers of M&Ms tried adding blue-colored M&Ms at the request of fans, but found that the blue M&Ms were the most frequently left in the bag. Greens, browns, and red foods are generally more acceptable. We next come in contact with the aroma of food. In order to smell something, volatile molecules from it have to evaporate and travel through the air into your nose. Once inside your nostrils, a patch of neurons located at the top of the nasal passage and behind the nose is able to distinguish more than 10,000 different smells. The aroma experience of a food is directly connected to its size and texture. It has been shown that people take smaller bites of foods that have strong aromas, are unfamiliar, or are disliked in general. Smell and taste are very closely linked. Smell and taste are also very closely linked. Receptors in your nose send signals to the parts of your brain that register taste. Similarly, taste receptors in the tongue send signals to the smell center of the brain. This commingling of senses ensures our ability to find and consume the proper foods for our survival. Taste is a combination of how a food looks, smells, and sounds. The buds on our tongues register sweet, salty, bitter, sour, and pungent. How we interpret taste is a matter of genes and environment. Once inside our mouths, we begin to perceive a few more characteristics of food. One is referred to as mouthfeel. Mouthfeel describes the texture of a product and is often related to the water activity of a food. Tooth pull and tooth pack are additional terms which are used to describe the way food feels in the mouth. Foods can be crispy, chewy, slimy, or smooth. Either way, the physical sensation of food does enhance the complexity and the sensuality of the eating experience. After this lively burst of sensory experience is completed, our bodies further break down the food we consume into basic elements we can utilize. But in the process, food can be quite pleasurable. More so for some than others. It has been shown that certain people with food addictions have an inadequate amount of dopamine receptors. They eat to feel good, but they have to consume quite a bit of food to reach that point. Other people find themselves simply addicted to sweets. Sweet foods make them feel good. However, a case of pop before the day has started or grazing chocolate bars all day may be a little excessive. Lust for power. Power is all around us and within us. But human civilization has sequestered it and allotted its privileges to those few who occupy a certain position or positions within groups. Those in power often have a certain amount of authority over others and receive the most benefits and privileges within the organization. Those beneath these few have less power, status, and fewer privileges. People scramble, backstab, and trample others in order to acquire the rewards which accompany the occupation of scant few seats of power. When the lust for power ensues, the lustful will seek it by whatever means will ensure their domination and control. Along the way, those striving for power may also come across its byproducts: glory, fame, status, and recognition. Clubs, organizations, municipalities, corporations, and sovereign nations all have structures conducive to clamoring for power. There is one President of the United States, one captain of a ship, one valedictorian, and one CEO of a company. All others are mere followers, whose personal power and influence is not nearly as great or impactful. There are several motives for acquiring power. These include the need to be in control, the need to have prestige and status, and the need to get others to conform to our wishes. Some say that those in need of power often lacked personal power as children. This lack of power created an urgent desire for it. When these people finally get the power they need, they don't necessarily feel powerful. They may, in fact, feel even more insecure. The need to be in control is less about controlling others as it is about the fulfillment of a need you have. It is less about others and more about something you lack. However, this need can involve behaviors like complaining, nagging, and criticizing that alienate and repel others. The need to have prestige and status may also stem from a lack of having either. Status may be attained through achievement, or it may also be ascribed. Status is directly related to one's rank within a social hierarchy and could be associated with one's occupation, net worth, marital status, or general popularity. The higher your rank within the hierarchy, the more rewards you will receive and control over others you will have. The need for others to conform to our wishes is really about garnering social influence. On the one hand, we are social creatures and are conditioned to conform to each other. On the other hand, Morton Deutsch and Harold Gerard have suggested that our need to be right and our need to be liked are directly related to this issue of conformity. These needs drive some to become conformists and drive others to expect conformity. Lust for knowledge. For some, the lust for knowledge is unquenchable. Perhaps this is due to our association of knowledge with power. If we have the need to be right, filling our heads with information can increase our chances of winning arguments. However, our friendships with others may become casualties as a result. They often say that nobody likes a know-it-all. We may crave to be the recipient of special privileges or resources. Being the smartest in a classroom may earn you the role of teacher's pet. Maintaining a high grade point average may qualify you to receive tens of thousands of dollars in scholarship funding. Being an expert in your field may place you in a position to be an advisor to the President of the United States. We may also crave the attention, admiration, prestige, and status we may gain from possessing knowledge. How great would it feel to walk across a graduation stage with the distinction of summa cum laude? How much would you gloat if a scientific paper you co-authored was published in a journal highly regarded in your field? Therein, therein lies part of the challenge with accumulating knowledge. Our motives may be questionable. We may become hoarders of information, so that either people who are less knowledgeable are forced to depend on us, making us feel powerful, or to humiliate those same people who are in the dark. The remedy for lust is chastity. Chastity helps us to govern our numerous instinctual appetites. While sweets may taste good, long-term consumption of them on a regular basis can lead to tooth decay, depleted function of the pancreas gland and immune system, and deficiencies in minerals such as magnesium and iodine. While sex may feel good, indulging in it with others recklessly can lead to unwanted pregnancy, any number of sexually transmitted diseases, erosion of one's self-esteem, as well as innumerable interpersonal issues. Various cultures prescribe to myriad moral standards and guidelines with the intent to exercise an authoritative influence on urges and instincts which, when left unchecked, may spin a society out of control. Chastity, abstinence, or continence may serve as an aid to bridle those unruly urges and raise our thoughts and actions toward our spiritual nature as opposed to our animal nature. Proverbs 23:7 states, "As a man thinketh, so is he." Each of us becomes that which we focus and contemplate on most often. Utilizing our urges and appetites for noble and glorious purposes can serve to uplift not only ourselves, but everyone we come in contact with. Chapter 2. Anger. Anger is the extreme opposite of love. Anger is the scab on our wounds of fear, anguish, betrayal, and disrespect. If love is all that is good, surely anger is the sum of all evil. Anger is as costly for humans as venom is for a snake. It takes some snakes 24 hours to reproduce a few milligrams of venom. So it is important to their survival that they use it sparingly. Anger stimulates the production of testosterone, increases heart rate, increases tension in the arteries, and decreases the levels of the stress hormone cortisol. Brain operation becomes asymmetrical with heavy activity in the left hemisphere. Adrenaline levels rise and often take about 20 minutes to go back to their normal levels. A few minutes of anger is said to cost about a day's worth of energy. Why do we get angry? Sometimes we're just frustrated. Most times we're suffering. A frustrated toddler is often angry because he cannot express himself in the manner he would like. He understands, but doesn't yet have all of the words to express his ideas so that another person will understand. So he resorts to crying, screaming, hitting, and falling out on the floor. Suppose you are traveling in a car at a relatively normal speed. Your child is strapped into their car seat in the back, pleasantly humming a song they have just made up. All all of a sudden, a car in an adjacent lane passes through your lane in order to make a left turn that they would have missed if they had continued on. This maneuver forces you to slam on your brakes. Your child stops humming in the back and has started crying. The people in the car behind you are forced to slam on their brakes to keep from hitting you, setting in motion a long chain reaction. No one is harmed, but you are furious with anger. They have already made their selfish left turn, but you are screaming and cursing at them at the top of your lungs through your raised window. Your curses are ineffective, though. They cannot hear you. The only person that can is your child crying in the back seat. You, though, are affected the most by your anger. You come home and you see your spouse's smartphone lying on the couch. As you move toward it, you can see that she was in the middle of responding to a text message. It says, "I'll just tell my husband that I'm going to have drinks with Melinda. Can't wait to see you. XOXO." Curious, you start reading through the exchange of text messages between your wife and Brian. It doesn't take long before you start seeing words like horny, wet, and hard. She sent him a picture of herself right after she got that surprise Brazilian wax that she had never had done before. Brian had also sent pictures of himself to your wife, and you cannot help but compare the shape of his package to your own. Then you start thinking about that gym membership she just got 6 months ago and how she's been getting her hair done every weekend. You thought it was a nice change. Now you know the reason for the change. You are livid. You're embarrassed. Meanwhile, you can hear your wife in the shower getting ready. There are some that would suggest that we should be open to criticism. But destructive criticism should be avoided if at all possible. While constructive criticism appreciates what you have done and provides guidelines for what specifically needs improvement, destructive criticism does not provide useful information and only results in creating resentment and destroying the recipient's self-esteem. For example, suppose you just spent the night at your office completing some projections and graphs for a client who happens to be your friend. He needs those projections and graphs for an important sales presentation later that morning. Your friend reviews your work and sees what he believes are numerous errors. He then calls you up and chews you out, saying things like, "You're such a freaking idiot," and "I should have hired a professional instead of someone like you." How else could you respond other than with resentment and defensiveness? Suppose you are a young boy and your mother asks you to clean the tub while she goes out to the store, and she wants it clean by the time she gets back. You agree to the chore, but you have never cleaned the tub before. The sides of the tub are smudged with dirt. There is a brown ring around the drain from hard water. The grout between the tiles is spotted with dirt, and the tiles themselves have a yellowish-brown hue. After the door closes and you hear your mother start up the car, you make the reasonable decision to gather a sponge in a bucket and fill the bucket with warm water. You add some dishwashing detergent to the bucket, thinking that if it works for dishes, it would work on the tub. After about an hour of hard work, the tub is in worse shape than it was before you started. You hear a key in the front door, and you fear the worst. Your mother comes into the bathroom and starts screaming, "What the fuck have you been doing while I've been gone?" And, "You're just a simple-ass, stupid motherfucker like your father." And, "This bathroom is horrible. You can't do shit right." How else are you to feel but hurt, crushed, confused, and defeated? Anger can often be a mask for guilt, shame, or vulnerability. When people press our buttons, they have successfully mapped out where we hurt. When they touch on the points, we lash out in anger because we want them to stop. They have discovered that we have not healed, and instead of revealing our true feelings, we elect to go on a rampage. Anger's chief function are to cause trouble, create confusion, and scatter the mind. In fact, no one can concentrate their mind and be consumed with anger at the same time. Anger's influence is felt more profoundly by others than by the person who is actually angered, because anger radiates outward like a ripple, consuming everyone in its path. The remedy for anger is forgiveness. Even after death, anger is said to survive in the mind until extinguished by the sufferer. No doctor can heal the disease of anger. However, forgiveness can suffocate the inner flames of rage. Whatever has troubled us to the point of anger, whatever event occurred, is embedded in our memory. We make peace with whatever happened and whoever caused it to happen through forgiveness. While we may never forget what happened, forgiving allows us to let go of any destructive feelings attached to that moment, giving us the freedom to reframe the experience in a more positive way. Another aid that can help us in our efforts to quell anger is a few simple laws of nature. We should never criticize, find fault, or abuse ourselves or anyone else. We should never blame anyone, including ourselves. We should never intentionally hurt the feelings of anyone or anything. We should also never use our mouths to utter unkind words. There is a man by the name of Al Lingo that conducts an unconditional love and forgiveness workshop. It's a group workshop that offers participants the opportunity to put into practice unconditional love and forgiveness towards themselves and others. The objective is to experience all aspects of wholeness and unity. The laws of right human relations are also examined. Learning these laws and other methods have been proven successful in creating change wherever change is needed, be it family, business, daily habits, or health. Finally, the following is a forgiveness practice you can start right away. It is a short prayer based on an ancient Hawaiian technique. You can say it to yourself every morning. The prayer is, I love you. I am grateful for another day. I am trying my very best to be accountable. I am accountable for my decisions today. I forgive you for anything that was not forgiven last night. I love you. Repeat those lines until you begin to feel lighter and the weight of grudges begin to lift. Chapter 3: Greed. Greed makes a god out of gold, silver, precious gems, and currencies. Erich Fromm described greed as a bottomless pit that exhausts the person in an endless effort to satisfy the need without ever reaching satisfaction. Greed is also a desire to possess significantly more than one needs, usually at the expense of others. There are many modern examples of greed at work. Greed thrives in an environment where collective responsibility is flimsy and fragile, and competition is romanticized as well as glorified. The winners tend to be from the same small population. They win because corporate pay structures highly favor a few positions, and those positions are often filled by friends and relatives. They win because they charge you the same fee regardless of whether or not you make a good or a bad trade. They win because that $250,000 house you mortgage will ultimately cost you, at 7% interest in over 30 years, $349,000 in interest for a total expenditure of $599,000, taxes not included. They win because some of them received a huge bonus because you got laid off. They win because you are willing to pay $2 for water that maybe cost them 5 cents. However, the heartlessness that is rampant in our society was apparently not always so. Laura Stokes was quoted in a recent Stanford Report article as having said, "A medieval businessman would surely be impressed by the successes of his modern descendants, but he would also despise them as men without honor and virtue." While there is nothing inherently wrong with the idea of profit, profiteering without social conscience or virtue is the playground for greed. Profit margins, fees, and interest rates are the tools for those you make wealthy. Where exactly do all those millions in fees, bonuses, and interest payments go? Corporate greed. By law, a corporation's sole function is to make profits and is beholden only to its shareholders. What exactly is profit? It's the amount of revenue remaining after expenses have been deducted. Labor costs are one of the expenses and include the compensation packages and benefits for all of the employees, all the way up to the CEO. So, even if a company performs poorly, CEOs get paid. CEOs are hired to ensure profits. You can either reduce costs or improve sales to increase profits. Profits are distributed among the shareholders as income. The decision to cut costs can range from cutting jobs to moving a plant to another country where there is less regulation. The officers of a company can decide to cut jobs in one quarter to improve the perception of the company. Then, in the next quarter, start hiring people again, perhaps at lower salaries. an employee may be given the option to receive their retirement income in one lump sum versus monthly payments in order to reduce costs. A company may choose to change suppliers in order to reduce costs if the price of a product suddenly increases due to law changes in a country. A company may also elect to settle a grievance with a former employee outside of court than in court because of the impact of negative public perception of their brand may adversely affect sales revenue. Improving sales revenue relies heavily on advertising, marketing, and a skilled sales staff. While advertising and marketing impact whether or not the general public knows that a product exists and how they relate to the product, salespeople make sure the decision makers choose to make the purchase. These components are the lifeblood of any business. Without sales, a business will definitely close its doors. To ensure sales, millions in market research is spent to discover the intricacies of human behavior, buying patterns, compatible pricing, and current needs. The right data can lead to increased sales. The wrong data can spell the death of a business. The bottom line is that revenue minus expenses equals profits. And a company's appetite for profits is insatiable. Speculation. Real estate. The real estate market is comprised of two types, residential and commercial. The residential market includes condominiums, townhouses, single-family homes, and multi-unit buildings up to 3 units. Commercial property includes multi-unit buildings above 3 units, strip malls, factories, plants, office buildings, hotels, and even more. However, our banking system has made it easier to enter the residential market than the commercial property market by extending credit to consumers. A homeowner can elect to sell a property at any price they choose. However, most of the time they would like to make a profit. A profit for a homeowner is represented by the amount of money remaining after a sale once their mortgage balance, any taxes due, and any portion of closing costs they agreed to pay have all been satisfied. Since real estate agents and mortgage loan originators get paid a percentage of the sales price, their income increases when home prices are higher. Here's a real-life example. Back in 2010, a young couple subletted a condo they were renting in order to rent to own a 3-bedroom, 3.5-bathroom single-family home. The home was part of a gated community's homeowner association. The home had originally been purchased in 1995 for around $175,000, and its value had ballooned to around $400,000 in 2007. This property was one of several possessed by the owner. By 2010, the property's value had been severed in half and was continuing to fall. In addition, the property had been vacant for 3 years, providing no cash flow for the owner. The young couple saw an opportunity to start a family in this home and crafted a rental agreement and suggested a fair purchase price. The purchase price was rejected, but the rental amount was agreed upon. After 1.5 years and the dwindling value of the house, no agreement regarding the purchase price could be agreed upon. Ultimately, the owner was approaching retirement and was seeking to make a $200,000 profit from the sale of the house, regardless of the market. The couple moved out in 2011, and the house, by all known accounts, remains empty. At a time when many homeowners overpaid for their property and found themselves in upside-down mortgages, this house still retained a little over its original value. However, inflexibility can prevent a person from cutting their losses and taking whatever gains they can get. In the end, the likelihood that the house will sell at a price that completely offsets the mortgage payments made when the house sat empty and the years of property tax payments is slim. The neighborhood where the property is located remains a work in progress. The stock market. A stock, or a share, is a portion of a corporation and represents a claim on that company's assets and holdings. Typically, a company will consist of a set number of shares, and those shares are sold as a form of fundraising for the company. The value of a stock is generally determined by the market's perception of a company's performance and financials, or simply by how a person feels about some information they received regarding a company. Ideally, when purchasing one or a number of stocks, the stockholder would like to see the value of that stock rise higher than the price they bought it at. A stockholder may or may not earn what is referred to as dividend income while holding a stock or stocks. However, depending on market conditions, a stockholder may be able to sell their stock for a profit. A portion of that profit goes to the government in the form of capital gains tax, and the remainder goes to the former stockholder. In the world of the stock market, there are two types of people, salesmen and consumers. Salesmen work for brokerage firms. Those firms charge fees for every transaction, whether you are buying or selling. That is how they make money. Consumers can be classified as either individuals or institutions. Individuals normally trade their own money. Institutions such as pension funds, mutual funds, insurance companies, or trust funds usually trade with other people's money. There are also two main trading philosophies, investing and trading. Either philosophy exposes your hard-earned money to considerable risks, fees, taxes, and losses. No matter how you trade, you have to pay close attention to your costs, namely, your potential for loss. Your potential for loss increases if you trade emotionally or if your decisions do not have solid financial foundations. In your decision making, if it's not sound, you might as well be gambling. Gambling. They say that the house always wins, and with good reason. Every time you place a bet on any casino game, there is a built-in edge or profit for the casino, even if you win. This edge is described as the difference between the true odds of a game and the odds the casino pays when you win. On top of that, while sometimes players will win and win big, over the long term, players will lose. Nevertheless, millions of people place bets on all sorts of things: sports outcomes, casino games, lottery numbers, scratch-off games, horse races, dog races, cockfights, dog fights, elections, celebrity deaths, reality TV shows, you name it. Each bet is placed with the intent to feel the thrill of winning, but most of the time they will only feel despair. Habitual gambling can easily become problematic. There is even a term for it: ludomania. The difficulty arises when a person continues to gamble even when losing everything and cannot muster the desire to stop. Without proper discipline, gambling can destroy families as well as lives. Priorities such as a mortgage and rent payments, utility bills, and daycare payments can easily be foregone when gamblers throw good money after bad, also known as escalation of commitment. Politics. A political position offers many advantages. Once elected, and as long as you stay out of trouble, you will receive a lifetime pension. A unique feature of political office is that your compensation is completely funded by taxpayers, and you and your peers vote for your own pay increases. Your salary is oftentimes no less than $100,000, while the work is only part-time. While on the surface, many aspiring politicians hire professionals to help them appear to be altruistic and servants of the people, eventually their true self-serving agenda is revealed. Apparently, too many irresistible opportunities for corruption present themselves to politicians. These opportunities come in the form of contributions or special favors from special interest groups that would like to influence their representatives' vote in their direction. Apparently, there are legal and not so legal ways to go about doing this. Many of those that have accepted less than legal contributions have gone on to serve lengthy prison sentences. Once incarcerated, many a politician sits and repents his deeds, wishing he had made different choices. Alas, the sweet song of greed sirens has enticed many a political figure astray from a more ethical career path. Mahatma Gandhi once said, "Earth provides enough to satisfy every man's needs, but not every man's greed." The remedy for greed is contentment. Contentment is the attribute of satisfaction and sufficiency. It is a good idea to determine ahead of time what this means for you in your life. Life offers many tantalizing choices, and you need a method that will allow you to discern when your satisfaction level has been met. Otherwise, your desires may run amok. Being content can be confused with lack of ambition. Having more might be nice, but the consequences of pursuing may place you in an unintended circumstance. For instance, when people purchase stocks or real estate, they do so at one price, hoping that the value of the property will increase to another price point, and they hope to sell at the higher price point, ensuring them of a certain profit. However, the price could at some point fall below the price they bought it. At this point, if they sell at this point, they will suffer a loss. If they wait until the market turns around, they may lose everything. Therefore, in this example, contentment may mean a price you would be happy to sell at and not put your original investment at risk. In politics, it may mean doing your job instead of taking bribes to add an addition onto your house. In gambling, it may mean establishing a certain amount of money you wish to gamble with and never going beyond that. There is a beauty in becoming content with what you currently have and who you already are. However, being content is not so much about never aspiring for more or never taking steps to improve your situation. Contentment is about self-care, appreciation, and perceivable satisfaction. Contentment is an opportunity to streamline and simplify your life. You will have less need to acquire more stuff and more awareness available to focus on your actual needs. It is a chance to appreciate not only yourself, but also the people in your life. It is also a great time to consider why you want the things you want in the first place. The consequences of not having a well-defined concept of what contentment means for you could mean losing your money, your reputation, your family, or your freedom. Chapter 4. Attachment. Dying is a process. The body temperature decreases, the blood pressure lowers, fluid begins to enter the lungs. The mind goes in and out of this reality. Then, in an instant, your feelings and affections are far away from here. An empty shell remains. Routines. However, before we arrive at those final moments, we live. As we live, we forget why we are here in the first place. We become attached to our routines, our obligations, our bills, and our duties. Yet we never seem to have time to do the things that are worth doing. Simultaneously, we feel we have no other choice but to perpetuate our routines. This is the trap of attachment. Depending on the environment, each of us has a role. Suppose, for an instant, you held the roles of a husband, father, and an employee. Each day, you wake up at around 6:30 a.m., not to an alarm, but to your son screaming. He is cranky because he is hungry, and he wants the world to know it. This is your cue to get up, pick up your son, take him down the hall, make sure he uses the bathroom, and get his soapy water together so you can wash him up. Meanwhile, this is your wife's time to take a shower. Your wife finishes taking her shower around the same time that you finish washing your son up, rubbing on lotion, and putting on his clothes for the day. Now it's your turn to take a shower while your son is getting his hair brushed. 10 minutes after you're out of the shower, you and your son are on your way to daycare. You have 35 minutes to get there and back so you can make your train. If you miss your train because of something unforeseen, you're screwed because the next train is not for another hour. However, if you make your train, you will be rewarded the same familiar faces and usual conversations. Once you arrive at your train stop, you walk 6 blocks to your job, where you routinely arrive anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes late. At your job, you sit loathing for 7.5 unpaid hours, fielding complaints from and solving problems for customers who pay quite a handsome sum for your services. The soundtrack of your day is the cacophony of your coworkers' incessant complaining about their equally low pay, how their last paycheck left them broke again 5 days before payday, and how much they hate management. Towards the end of the day, you are eager to leave on time and hopeful that no one calls with any last-minute issues that need to be resolved. If you're able to leave, you retrace those 6 blocks to the train station, avoid a few familiar panhandlers, get on your train, and rush to get your son from daycare. Once everyone is home and coats are hung, it's an hour of playtime until dinner. Then there's another hour of playtime until bath time. After bath time is finished and the little one is in the bed, it's 9 o'clock and you're tired, but you don't want to go to sleep right away because when you wake up, you will wake up to the same routine. You have been very busy. You've been too busy to reconnect with your friends and extended family, too busy to make time for your spiritual practice, and too busy to exercise. You promise yourself you will get to it all later, but then later finally comes and goes, and the doctor has pulled the sheet over your head. Things. After a long, restful trip to the Caribbean, you are glad to return home and reconnect with your life. You expect to maybe check the mail, tell your neighbors you have returned, and maybe later on make a run to the grocery store for a few things. The last thing you would expect is to, upon opening the front door, gaze unhappily at an empty home. Your home has been burglarized while you are away. Everything is gone. Even the copper pipes have been stripped from inside the walls. A pit begins to form in your stomach. You do not always realize how attached you are to things until they're gone. In addition, we often harbor an unhealthy relationship with the things we think we own. Our sense of who we are is often bound with the things we own, and when those things are harmed or lost, it can be like losing an organ or a limb. However, what, if anything, do we really own? Ecclesiastes 5:15 tells us that as we came into this world naked from our mother's womb, we shall return the same way. When we depart from this world, we will be unable to carry anything that we have labored for with us. Yet, while we are alive, we regularly succumb to the illusion of ownership by a regular reference to things we possess with the modifiers of my and mine. A mother once told her son to maintain a book collection so people would think of him as a smart man. Unfortunately, while away at school, the young man was locked out of his dorm room and was told that he either had to pay $10,000 within 5 days or move all of his belongings off the property. His personal library, which once served as a badge of intelligence, suddenly turned into a giant, burdensome albatross. Needless to say, the young student was unable to produce the needed funds within the required time and had to significantly prune his prized collection. However, with fewer books in his possession, is the young man any less smart? Hoarding is an example of an extreme emotional attachment to things. A highly rated cable television network devoted 5 seasons to the subject of hoarding, the people who suffer from it, and those dedicated to providing treatment for those suffering from this disorder. A man by the name of Henry recently went to help his uncle move to a new home. The uncle was extremely wealthy and was moving from one house in Illinois' exclusive Lake County to another house in the same county. However, when he arrived at the uncle's home, there was nothing but filth everywhere, stacks of newspapers piled close to the ceiling, and plenty of artifacts that the uncle had long forgotten about. The family did not want to trust the job to movers for fear of theft, and with good reason. While moving a couch, Henry found a stack of bearer bonds worth $250,000. That definitely gives new meaning to finding loose change under the cushions of the couch. Relationships. We often attach possessive pronouns to our friends, our parents, our children, our spouses, and to those close to us. But are they truly ours? Do we in fact own them? Traditional wedding vows contain a section historically known as the Wheel of Fortune. The minister or justice of the peace asks each spouse to repeat, "I," insert your name, "take you," insert their name, "to be my lawfully wedded husband or wife. To have and to hold from this day forward, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, for as long as we both shall live." It sounds like a fairly permanent arrangement. However, the current rates of divorce say otherwise. It is enough to cause a person to question whether their spouse was truly theirs to begin with. The same can be said of our children. We undoubtedly have a hand in bringing them into existence. Their little arms and legs press through their mother's womb to remind us that they are inside. Once born, we take care of them, teach them, and do our best to protect them from harm. Then, after a while, they emerge as adults, the product of our toil. It all seems to happen so rapidly. Those that are truly fortunate never have to experience the death of their children. It happens, however, from time to time. Like granules of sand, it seems like our relationships with others can slip easily from our grasp, often without advance notice. We can also become attached to relationships with others that are toxic for us. While in this sort of relationship, an individual can be the recipient of an assortment of abuses. The foundation of such a relationship is characteristically low self-esteem, low self-worth. The quality of the relationship is almost symbiotic with the abused person's self-concept. Their identity is radically different from the egotists that we will examine in the next chapter. Psalm 24:1 says, "The earth is the Lord's, and everything in it, the world, and all who live in it." The remedy for attachment is discrimination. Discrimination is the ability to distinguish things of good quality from things that are not. There are only so many hours in the day. Some hours are required for sleep and rest. Some hours are apportioned for however you earn a living. Still more hours are reserved for recreation. Our lives are filled with repetitive cycles, the most prominent ones being the revolution of the earth around its own axis and the revolution of the earth around the sun. Nevertheless, our lives need not to be like merry-go-rounds that cannot seem to get off. Some of the things you do help you and your family to survive and grow. Those things definitely are essential, but do not forget about your soul. Your soul has needs that need attending to. Naked and penniless you came into this world, and your baggage will be even lighter when you depart. Be sure to spend some time each day building up that part of you that survives all of this. Detachment is also a highly recommended remedy. One of the biggest challenges to attachment is letting go. It could be the loss of a car, a wedding ring, or a loved one. Detaching yourself can be difficult but liberating. Letting go can be just what you need to live a life of greater purpose and fulfillment than whatever you may have gained from the comfort of your possessions. It is debatable whether your possessions were ever really yours in the first place. What can we say is truly ours in the first place? What can we own absolutely? We enter this world sheathed in a body fit for this world. But when we depart, we leave behind the body. Between the bookends of our existence, we learn the concept of me and mine, lay claim to this and that, and acquire the rights and privileges for countless things like homes, cars, and toys. However, you can get fired from the place you called your job, move from the place you called your home, and find out the woman you called your girlfriend was never really just yours. Simone Weil once said that attachment is the great fabricator of illusions. No matter how tightly we try to hold on to people or things, sooner or later they may slip from our grasp. You are free to enjoy the illusion, but also keep in mind its true nature. Chapter 5: Vanity, Pride, and Egotism. In life, you know yourself to be I, and everyone else is you. We are all running around, attending to our daily needs, and struggling to fuel our dreams and our desires. However, vanity is when you become more important than the rest of us, and you cannot see why we cannot see that you are the center of the universe. Vanity. The root word of vanity is the word vain. The core of vanity's meaning is the futility of one's actions. This meaning is corroborated in Ecclesiastes 1 and 2. It was not until more recently that the idea of vanity became more associated with conceit about one's appearance or accomplishments. At one time, the symbol of vanity was often a naked woman sitting on a couch, combing her hair while gazing in a mirror that is being held by a demon. This symbol reminds us that youth and youthful characteristics are fleeting, and it is pointless to attempt to hold on to your youthful appearance in old age. Such is the cycle of life. However, our modern interpretation of vanity is more closely associated with a narcissistic and egocentric view of one's appearance and one's abilities. This inflated and inaccurate perception of oneself improperly elevates the self above all others. Vanity can be a combination of how you want others to view you and how you want to view yourself. Alas, overemphasis on your appearance can have unintended consequences. You're so vain. Modern society is said to be in decline in part due to vanity. Life for humans often seems like a never-ending selection process. Which team will choose you for the neighborhood football game in the street? Which high school will accept you? Who will be willing to go to the high school prom with you? Who will hire you? Who will marry you? At each turn, it's someone's job to assess your characteristic and determine whether or not you will be a good fit. At each turn, it's someone's job to assess your characteristics and determine whether or not you will be a good fit. An opinion about your appearance is made within a quick glance that may last all of 3 seconds. It is no wonder that so many people invest heavily in effort and expense toward manufacturing their appearance, sometimes to their detriment. Our appearance is heavily emphasized in modern society. As a result, people sometimes take extreme measures to preserve or enhance how they look. Unfortunately, our personal opinion can be wholly inaccurate. Recently, Unilever produced an ad for Dove soap depicting an experiment where an FBI forensic sketch artist drew 2 versions of sketches of several women solely based on how the women described themselves and how others described them. The artists could not see their faces. In each case, the sketch based on others' description was more beautiful than the sketch based on each woman's self-description. For thousands of years, humans have been altering their appearance with the intent of becoming more pleasant to another person's eyes. Devices like corsets have altered the figures of men and women over the ages. Stacks of rings have elongated the necks of others. Makeup has been another tool to attract and capture other people's attention. In modern times, we witness parents coaching their overly made-up children in beauty contests. There are adolescent models that starve themselves or attempt to get their hips shaved down in order to advance their careers. Women are getting breast, hip, and butt implants to heighten onlookers' desire and to feel more confident about themselves. Both men and women are electing to have varying amounts of plastic surgery in order to look better, and are allowing doctors to inject known toxins into their skin in order to look more youthful. You sometimes see men and women at department store makeup counters trying to look younger and brighter. People across several continents with dark complexions continue to purchase and use harmful skin products that claim to bleach their skin tones so they may look lighter, brighter, and feel better about themselves. Unfortunately, the lengths to which people will go to allegedly improve how they look can do more harm than good, sometimes resulting in disfigurement or death. Boasting and bragging. Some people need to show off. They thrive from it. However, all of the boasting and bragging may not be a true assessment of their abilities. This excessive pride in one's accomplishments and skills may actually conceal lack of skill and accomplishment. Remember, the vain are often concerned about how others perceive them, so tooting one's horn can be an effective tool in managing public opinion about yourself. One repercussion of thinking too highly about your abilities is that it may lead to a kind of self-idolatry. Money can have this sort of impact. It is common in our society for us to place self-made millionaires on pedestals. We collectively are enamored by their wealth and accomplishment. However, it seems foolish to believe that one person can achieve anything without the input of coordinated effort from others. Who made the clothes that you have on your back? Who taught you the ideas you have in your head? Who gave us this day and provides us with the very air we breathe? What about when you're at a medium-sized get-together with friends, and there's that one loudmouth guy in the room? All eyes have to be on that guy. It is difficult to get a word in edgewise because this person is constantly cutting others off once they begin talking. On top of that, even if you try to gently remind them of their faults, they often are not open to hearing your reminder. A person suffering from an overinflated sense of self can also be quite self-righteous. The vain are too important to themselves and can do no wrong in the eyes of others. The vain are too important to themselves and can do no wrong in their eyes. Everyone else is wrong or at fault but them. Pride. Pride has both positive and negative connotations. However, for our purposes, we will begin examining the latter. Pride in this sense is related to vanity in that it concerns an inflated perception of one's status or accomplishments. We commonly encounter this concept when we are accused of having too much pride, especially when we are in the midst of a dispute with others. This affliction is characterized by an inflated sense of self, self-reliance, and self-righteousness. Suppose for a moment that someone you have known for quite some time has suddenly encountered difficult times. However, you are completely unaware of their predicament. In fact, they have not reached out for help for fear of feeling embarrassed. As long as you have known them, they have been superbly self-sufficient. They have held down a fantastic job and have had plenty of success with their real estate investments, so most would assume that they would be prepared for any calamity. However, privately, their spouse has been receiving very expensive treatments for a rare disease, and the medical bills have wiped them out completely. So now your friend is in the soup line, and it just so happens that it's your day to serve food at the local mission. You recognize your friend in the line and can tell by their demeanor that they do not wish to be recognized. You are shocked to see them in this situation, and if you had known they needed help, you would have certainly helped them. Alas, your friend was too proud to ask for help. Acknowledging his need would conflict with his image of himself. In this case, pride conceals shame, guilt, and remorse. It also paralyzes one's ability to accept their current situation and move through it by acquiring the necessary resources. Egotism. Egotism is the belief that you are better and more important than other people. An egotist is also consumed with talking and thinking about themselves excessively. It is natural and healthy for an infant to be egotistical. It's imperative to their survival to get as much attention, love, and nurturing as they possibly can. They rely heavily on others to make certain that their needs are met. However, over time, it is equally as important for a person's sense of self-importance to gradually equalize with the rest of mankind. Development of skill and character enable a person to rely less on others and thus contribute more to society. Alas, some approach adulthood with an overinflated sense of self, overly resistant to criticism, and a corrupted sense of self-efficacy. The remedy for vanity is humility. Humility helps us to deflate our sense of self in order to place ourselves in a proper relationship with others. Our view of ourselves is modified such that instead of being all important, we become just as important as anyone else. If we once were showy and flamboyant with our outward presentation, we might be inclined to mute our appearance so as not to demand as much of other people's attention. If we were once loud talking and never felt it was important to listen to others, we may withdraw our need to talk and make space to truly listen to others. This allows us to help others feel important, appreciated, and more inclined to listen to what we have to say. As a result, we may finally be able to face our own faults and begin the inner work that leads to a strong foundation of self-acceptance. If we once believed that we did something on our own, we might now be filled with gratitude in acknowledging all of the assistance we have received along the way. A few people have been attributed to having said that humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. This can be a suggestion to be less selfish. It could also be a call to be of service to others. Humility is more keenly perceived when we are helpless, when we have had something or someone taken away from us, or when we were at the mercy of a force or forces much greater than our own. It may be like what a surfer might feel, positioned atop the crest of a monster wave, preparing to descend into what must seem like a bottomless abyss. It could also be like an infant attempting his first step. Perhaps it is like an astronaut hurtling around in orbit who catches a glimpse of the planet we all live on. But most never get the chance to see from that perspective. Once we give ourselves an opportunity to appreciate the enormity and expansiveness of our surroundings, we have no choice but to conclude that we are like a drop of water in the ocean, yet at the same time an essential part of that ocean. Humility must likewise provide us with this sense of being a part of something greater, while still acknowledging our self-importance. Chapter 6, Cultivating Balance. Julian Johnson, in his book Path of the Masters, refers to the passions as destructive mental actions. Action is most often a response to a thought or some sort of stimulation. Between thought and action lies a gap in time where the decision to do something or simply do nothing resides. If we are to truly improve ourselves, we must apply what we have learned about the passions and their remedies in this space between thought and action. In this space, we get to choose whether or not to act based on instinct, habit, and emotion, or by more divinely inspired influence. Whether we are acting with our eyes, ears, nose, mouth, feet, or our sex organs, we have the opportunity to express our best selves through our actions. One area we can improve in is our character. Be honest in your dealings with others, and be loyal to those that matter to you. Be tolerant of differences, and be gentle in your response to anger and insults. Hold yourself accountable for your words and attitudes. Before you act, consider the consequences. Be fair, be kind, and forgive as often as possible. Aspire to refine your actions. We can approach this by gradually altering our beliefs about what we think we deserve and what we think about our environment. As we strive toward our best selves, we need to examine the kinds of people, places, and things we religiously add to our experience. They are a reflection of what we think we deserve and ultimately of our opinion about ourselves. There are numerous old sayings which attempt to communicate this idea. Misery loves company, and you can't lie down with dogs and not catch fleas are two examples. The thoughts and attitudes of the company we habitually keep are infectious. They become our thoughts and attitudes, which in turn form the foundation for our actions. Begin to enhance and uplift our relationships. Relationships are a two-way experience. We can definitely take steps to enhance how we relate with others. Management of our self-indulgence assists in our being more considerate of others. Forgiveness of ourselves and others truly breaks down the barriers that we have erected to protect us and allows for healing to permeate us. Contentment enables us to realize and define our experiences of happiness and satisfaction. However, while we may contribute to the good of others by exemplifying these attributes, we also need to be mindful how we allow ourselves to be treated as well. For instance, we may need to let go of people or influences in our life that are depleting us and not contributing to our highest good. We could also improve ourselves by expanding on our focus. On the one hand, the only real evidence we have of the world around us is through our five senses. Those senses are themselves limited in their ability to describe the world. With the assistance of the brain, an image of our surroundings is developed with the use of the data streaming in from the senses. From this standpoint, how we think, how we feel, and what we crave for can easily become our single point of focus. However, if we cease to exist, the world appears to go on without us. So it would seem that we should make room in our vision for the rest of the world, how they think, what they feel, and what they need. We need not replace pleasing ourselves with pleasing others. We need only to acknowledge that we exist in a cooperative reality with others where our actions are both potent and impactful. The goal is not to completely annihilate the passions from our lives. They may surface from time to time. On occasion, someone may say or do something to make you angry. You may see something that for a moment fills you with lust. The difference is that now you possess the tools to counteract the effects of these agents and cultivate balance in your life. Due to our interconnection, the choice you make to cultivate balance assists everyone in making the same choice. By rebuilding yourself, you also aid in the rebuilding of the world. The end.